So, although I still don't really know what I'm doing with this whole social media, YouTube videos, vlog, diary, I don't know what the point of all this is for. Working out my thoughts and ideas, some kind of idea of posterity, if I ever have kids. Not when you're younger, but the older you get, you want to know about your parents, about people that came before you, your grandparents, what life was like for them. And 100 years from now, this is antiquated technology, true enough, but the kind of technology that existed 100 years ago with my grandparents, I mean, you can't hear their voice in a letter. You can't get an idea of who they were. Not that a 10-minute YouTube video gives that much more insight, but I suppose there's some idea of wanting just to express my own thoughts about what I'm going through, my thoughts, reactions to other ideas, other people. I'm a follower of Elliot Hulse. Perhaps this is part of my version or my interpretation of the whole stronger version of yourself that he's all about. He being just one particular person of interest of mine. And if these videos are in some way about me working out what the stronger version of myself is, then I suppose part of the conversation should be about the hero's journey. And if I am becoming the stronger version of myself, which every day you hope, or at least you should hopefully be doing, and alluding to a notion that Elliot Hulse put out about the call to adventure. In this and in this day and age, it's much easier to play it safe. And we use the metaphor of standing at a cliff and looking down at the cliff and say, "This is stupid. I shouldn't do this. Here's every reason why not to. Play it safe." And I can't say that in my experiences and what I've done, and choices that I've made, were all bad or all good. There is no bad and no good, it's just a choice, and then you have to deal with the consequences of that choice. Either make other choices, make different choices, or continue to make the same choices depending on how that works for you. How it's worked for me is looking back and saying, I did what society said you should do. I did not follow my heart at times, and I did at other times. And as I look back, and I had this great opportunity now in my middle adult life to kind of really figure out, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do? See, when you're younger, you have to worry about things like money and career and these things, because that's what society tells you should worry about. And not that worrying about money is something that you shouldn't do. You have to. That's a reality. You can't escape that. Whether you want to live in a utopian society or not. That's how it is. when people will tell you, you know, you're not a good enough singer. You're not gonna be able to make a living off of that. You know, all artists are broke for a reason, and that's simply just not true. Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll make millions and have a comfortable life and have all the trappings. Love that word, by the way. Trappings, trap of the world. But I don't believe that the accumulation of personal wealth and of things should be the driving force of your life. What you get up every day to do and why. Right? And for me, whether I want to admit it or not, that really was the point for a long time. I just was not happy. And that really showed up, and it manifested itself in lots of ways. See, I've come to think that, come to believe, even, beliefs are stronger to change than an idea. But I've come to believe, even, that what you should be doing every day, regardless of how much money you could possibly make or not make, is to follow this. Follow your heart. It's scary. And there's no guarantee that the thoughts that you have about, oh, I'm going to do this and this will happen, I'll do this and that'll happen, will come true. I have no idea what's next for me. A version of myself, even just a few years ago, would be terrified at that thought. Thought, oh, that's not a way to live. That's not being a responsible adult. And there's something to be said about being responsible. You have to be. I'm sitting in my music and painting studio in my house. I bought a house. You have to be responsible. But you have to balance being responsible and following your heart. Accepting that call to adventure. Does that mean that everybody should stop what they're doing and just completely, want to be a rock star? Well, no. Doesn't mean that. But trying to be a rock star is a lot different than following your heart and producing music. Originality, original songs. Being true to yourself. It's really denying the world at large something. Someone like Woody Guthrie decided that he was just going to be like every other singer-songwriter or musician out there. There's so many people that wouldn't be who they are because of what he did. Not excusing other parts of his behavior, mind you. I'm not saying that he was the greatest person of all time, but his music was pretty fantastic and it transcended generations. I mean, he died decades before I was born, and yet I'm still enamored by his music. People like Bruce Springsteen are enamored by his music. That's just one example. But that's part of my hero's journey. I don't know why I'm making these videos. I'm not even sure if I care if anybody ever views them or not. But it's just part of my hero's journey to do something that is bigger than me. And just to feel connected to what it is that I want to do and the why. Just really interested in finding out the why. What is it about me that wants to paint? What do I get? That innate happiness. Why haven't I pursued this in this way? In my 20s, I thought I had to go to grad school. Oh, get that MFA. That piece of paper was going to change everything for me. And then I met people that had their MFAs. And they were working in the same retail stores that I was working in. Me thinking like, well, what's the point of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, I got accepted into a graduate program and I quit it. Perhaps that might not have been the smartest thing for me to do. Perhaps that has affected my ability to network and be looked at as a true artist. Perhaps there are former professors from my undergraduate days that didn't like that. Perhaps I'll never live that down in their eyes. But there was that tiny little voice, that little Jiminy Cricket standing on my shoulder saying, there's another way. Whether I knew it or not, I was trusting my heart. My heart was saying, there's another way to do this. There are smarter ways. This doesn't mean that you're not an artist. It's just a trapping of the time. You need a piece of paper and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt just to say, oh yeah, he's an artist. This is my hero's journey. I'm not quite sure how else to describe it yet because I'm not really sure. But I'm sort of just taking the first couple of steps right off that cliff. But I gotta believe and I gotta trust in my heart. I think the world would be a better place if a lot of other people did too. It's just a thought.